The days before the grand unification banquet were filled with noise and movement. Ships landed every hour, bringing delegates from across the galaxy. Strange beings walked the crystal halls of the palace. Some had scales, some had fur. Some floated in the air or crawled on many legs. All of them looked at the two humans with confusion or disgust. Park Tae did not care. He had work to do. Every morning, he stood at his assigned position near the throne room. His official job was to represent humanity at minor ceremonies. In truth, he was decoration. The Valorians liked to show off their collection of lesser species. See, they seemed to say, even the primitive humans bow before our queen. Tae used this time to watch. He watched the servants moving through the halls. He watched the guards changing shifts. He watched the nobles talking in corners, their voices too low for human ears. He could not hear their words, but he could read their bodies, the way they leaned toward each other, the way their eyes moved, the small movements of their hands. Most of all, he watched the High Minister. High Minister Drakon was the Queen's most trusted advisor. He was tall, even for a Valorian, with silver skin and eyes like black stones. He had served the Queen for 200 years. Everyone respected him. Everyone trusted him. But Tae had noticed something strange. 3 days ago, Drakon had visited the palace kitchens. This was unusual. A High Minister did not concern himself with food. That was work for servants. Yet Drakon had spent an hour there, speaking with the new cook. 2 days ago, Tae had seen Drakon meeting with a group of aliens he did not recognize. They wore dark clothes and spoke in whispers. When they noticed Tae watching, they stopped talking and walked away. Yesterday, Drakon had personally inspected the food being prepared for the Queen's table. Again, this was strange. The Queen's food was tested by special servants. It was not the High Minister's job. Tae told Sora what he had seen. They sat in their small room, speaking quietly so no one could hear. "You are imagining things," Sora said. "Drakon is the High Minister. He can go anywhere he wants. He can do anything he wants. But why would he care about the food? Maybe he wants everything to be perfect for the banquet. It is a big event." Tae shook his head. "No, I have watched him for weeks. He never cared about such things before. Something changed." Sora sighed. She looked tired. The stress of being a human in an alien palace was wearing on her. "Even if you are right, what can we do? We are nothing here. If we accuse the High Minister of something, they will laugh at us. Or worse, they will throw us out. I am not going to accuse anyone. I am just going to keep watching. Watching is dangerous, Tae. If the wrong person notices you watching," she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. The night before the banquet, Tae could not sleep. He walked through the palace corridors, staying in the shadows. The guards ignored him. To them, he was just a restless human, too stupid to know when to sleep. He found himself near the kitchens again. The lights were still on. Servants were working through the night, preparing food for tomorrow's feast. Through a window, Tae could see the new cook working at a special table. He was preparing a single dish, separate from all the others. The Queen's dish. Tae watched the cook's hands. They were shaking. Not much, but enough for Tae to notice. The cook kept looking at the door as if expecting someone to come in. His face was tight with fear. Tae had seen that look before. He had seen it on the faces of people who were being forced to do something they did not want to do, something that scared them. High Minister Drakon walked in. He spoke to the cook in a low voice. Tae could not hear the words, but he could see the cook nodding quickly, desperately. Drakon put a hand on the cook's shoulder. It looked friendly, but Tae could see the cook flinch. Then Draken looked up. For one terrible moment, his black eyes seemed to look directly at Tay. Tay pressed himself against the wall. His heart was pounding. Had Draken seen him? Did he know? After a long moment, Draken looked away and left the kitchen. Tay let out a breath he did not know he was holding. He knew now. He was certain. Someone was going to poison the queen. The pieces fit together in his mind. The new cook, brought in just before the banquet. Draken's unusual interest in the food. The fear on the cook's face. The secret meetings with unknown aliens. But he had no proof. He had only his eyes and his gut. Against the word of a high minister who had served for 200 years. Sora was right. If he spoke up, no one would believe him. He was just a human. A primitive creature from a small, unimportant planet. Why would anyone listen to him? He walked back to his room slowly, thinking. Tomorrow was the banquet. Tomorrow the queen would eat the food prepared by the frightened cook. Tomorrow, something terrible might happen. Park Tay had a choice to make. He could stay silent and stay safe. Or he could speak up and risk everything. He thought about Earth. He thought about all the humans who would suffer if he caused a scandal. He thought about Sora, who had worked so hard to build a life here. Then he thought about the queen, raising poisoned food to her lips. He thought about Drakon smiling as he watched her eat. By the time he reached his room, he had made his decision. Tomorrow, he would do what humans had always done. He would trust his instincts. He would face the danger. And he would hope that he was not wrong. The grand banquet hall was the largest room Park Tay had ever seen. It could hold 10,000 beings, and tonight it was full. Creatures from across the galaxy sat at long crystal tables. Lights floated in the air like captured stars. Music played from somewhere, strange and beautiful. At the center of it all, on a raised platform, sat Queen Valara. She was ancient and terrible and beautiful. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight on water. Her eyes were deep purple, holding centuries of wisdom and power. She wore robes that seemed to be made of living light. When she moved, the whole room seemed to move with her. Tay stood at his assigned position, far from the queen's table. He was dressed in the simple clothes of a human servant. Around him, the other species talked and laughed. No one looked at him. No one cared about the small human standing in the shadows. That was fine. He needed to think. The feast would begin soon. By tradition, the queen would eat the first bite. Only after she had tasted her food would the others be allowed to eat. It was an ancient custom, a symbol of trust between the queen and her people. Tonight, that trust would be betrayed. Tay could see the special dish being carried toward the queen's table. It was on a golden plate, covered with a crystal dome. The frightened cook was nowhere to be seen. Servants in white robes carried the food with careful hands. High Minister Drakon stood beside the queen's chair. He was smiling. It was a small smile, barely visible, but Tay could see it. It was the smile of a man who was about to win. Sora appeared beside Tay. She looked worried. "You have that look again," she whispered. "Please tell me you are not going to do anything stupid." "I cannot promise that." "Tay, listen to me. Whatever you think is happening, you are wrong. The Valorians do not poison. It is against everything they believe. Drakon has served the queen for 200 years. You are a human who has been here for 3 weeks. Who do you think they will believe?" Tay did not answer. He watched the dish being placed before the queen. "Even if you are right," Sora continued, her voice desperate, "what can you do? If you cause a scene, they will arrest you. They might arrest all humans. Everything we have worked for will be destroyed. And if I stay silent, the queen will die." Sora grabbed his arm. "You do not know that. You are guessing. I am not guessing. I am seeing. The queen raised her hand. The hall fell silent. 10,000 beings stopped talking at once. The only sound was the soft music floating through the air. My friends, the queen said. Her voice was clear and strong, filling the massive room without effort. Tonight, we celebrate 500 years of peace and prosperity. Tonight, we celebrate the unity of the galaxy. The queen smiled. As is our tradition, I will share the first taste with you all. A servant removed the crystal dome from her dish. The food beneath was beautiful, arranged like a work of art. The queen picked up her silver fork. Tay felt his heart stop. This was the moment. In a few seconds, she would eat, and then it would be too late. He thought about everything he had learned. The nervous cook, Dracon's secret meetings, the fear in everyone's eyes. He thought about his instincts, the voice inside him that screamed danger. He thought about being wrong. He thought about the shame and punishment that would follow. He thought about Earth, about his family, about Sora. Then he stopped thinking. Park Tay stepped forward. He pushed past surprised aliens. He walked through the crowd toward the Queen's platform. Guards saw him and reached for their weapons. People scrambled to get away from the strange human walking toward their queen. But Tay did not stop. He reached the edge of the platform just as the queen raised the fork to her lips. Guards grabbed his arms. Pain shot through his body as they twisted him down. But before they could silence him, he shouted the words he had come to say. Your Majesty, do not eat that food. The hall fell silent. 10,000 beings stared at the small human held by the guards. The queen froze, her fork still raised. Her purple eyes turned to look at Tay. High Minister Dracon was the first to speak. His face was twisted with anger. This creature is mad. Remove him at once. Execute him for threatening the queen. The guards began to drag Tay away. But then the queen spoke. Stop. The single word cut through the noise like a blade. Everyone froze. The queen set down her fork. She looked at Tay with those ancient, terrible eyes. For a long moment, she studied him, the way a scientist might study a strange new insect. Speak, human, she said. Tell me why I should not eat. Tay took a deep breath. His arms hurt. His heart was pounding, but his voice was steady. Your Majesty, 3 days ago, your cook was replaced. No one explained why. The new cook has been preparing your food separately from all others. He is afraid. I have seen it in his movements, in his face. Draken laughed. This is foolishness. The word of a human against... I am not finished, Tay said quietly. The queen raised her hand again. Draken fell silent, his face going pale. The High Minister has visited the kitchens many times this week, Tay continued. He has met with strangers in secret. He personally watched your food being prepared. These are not the actions of a loyal servant. These are the actions of someone with a plan. The hall was so quiet that Tay could hear his own heartbeat. I could be wrong, he said. If I am, I will accept any punishment. But I beg you, your Majesty, test the food first. Let me eat it if you do not believe me. But please, do not eat it yourself. The queen looked at him for a long, long time. Then she looked at Dracon. The High Minister's face was white with fear. Guards, the queen said softly, bring me the food tester, and do not let the High Minister leave this room. The next few hours were chaos. Guards surrounded High Minister Dracon. He shouted that he was innocent, that this was madness, that a human's word meant nothing. But the queen's command was absolute. No one moved to help him. The royal food tester was brought forward. She was a young Valorian with silver hair and nervous eyes. In her hands, she carried a small device that glowed with soft blue light. She approached the queen's dish with slow, careful steps. Park Tay watched from where the guards still held him. He had stopped struggling. There was nothing more he could do. Either he was right, or he was wrong. He would know soon enough. The food tester passed her device over the dish. For a moment nothing happened. The blue light stayed steady and calm. Then it turned red. A sharp alarm filled the air. The food tester stumbled backward, her face white with shock. The food contains Veloxin. The word spread through the hall like fire. Veloxin, one of the deadliest poisons known to Valorians. It worked slowly, over many weeks. The victim would appear to grow ill naturally. By the time anyone realized the truth, it would be far too late. The queen would have died, and no one would have known she was murdered. High Minister Dracon broke. He tried to run. He pushed past guards and guests, desperate to escape. But there were too many people, too many bodies in his way. Guards caught him before he reached the door. They threw him to the ground at the queen's feet. "You dare?" the queen said. Her voice was soft, but it cut like ice. "You dare betray me after 200 years. Dracon looked up at her. His face was twisted with hate. 200 years of serving you, he spat. 200 years of watching you make weak decisions. The Empire is dying, Valara. You are too old, too slow. New powers are rising in the galaxy, and you do nothing. Someone had to act. Someone had to murder me, you mean? Someone had to save our people." The queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned to her guards. "Take him away. Find out who helped him. Find out everything." As the guards dragged Draken from the hall, the queen turned her attention to Tay. The guards still held his arms, though more gently now. Everyone in the room was looking at the small human who had saved their queen. "Release him," she commanded. The guards let go. Tay stood alone before the most powerful being in 7 star systems. His legs were shaking, but he forced himself to stand straight. "You saw what my own people could not see," the queen said. "How?" Tay thought carefully before answering. "Your Majesty, Valorians have perfect memory. You see every detail and remember every fact. We came from a dangerous world. Everything wanted to kill us. We survived not by being the strongest or the smartest, but by learning to read intention. We learned to see when someone was lying. We learned to feel when danger was near. You sensed Draken's betrayal through instinct?" "Through observation, Your Majesty. I watched his actions. I watched his body language. I put the pieces together. It is not magic. It is just a different way of seeing." The queen nodded slowly. Around her, thousands of aliens listened in silence. Many of them had spent their whole lives thinking of humans as primitive, backward creatures. Now they were looking at Tay with new eyes. Later that night, the full truth came out. Under questioning, Draken revealed everything. He had allied with the Sarkon Empire, a rival power on the edge of the galaxy. They had promised to help him take the throne if he removed the queen. The plan had been building for years. The new cook had been threatened into helping. His family had been kidnapped by Sarkon agents. He had no choice but to obey. When the guards found him, he was crying with relief. He had never wanted to hurt anyone. The Sarkon delegates at the banquet were arrested. Messages were sent across the galaxy, warning other empires of the conspiracy. What had started as a quiet assassination attempt became a major political incident. Through it all, Park Tay sat in a small room and waited. Sora was with him. She had not said anything since the banquet hall. She just sat beside him, holding his hand. "I cannot believe you did that," she finally said. "I cannot believe it worked. You could have been killed. You could have destroyed everything." "I know." She squeezed his hand tighter. "You stupid, brave, impossible man." Tay smiled for the first time in days. "Is that a compliment? I have not decided yet." A guard appeared at the door. "The queen wishes to see you," he said. Tay stood up. His legs were still shaking. He did not know what would happen next. Perhaps the queen would thank him. Perhaps she would send him away. Perhaps she would simply ignore him now that the crisis was over. As he followed the guard through the crystal corridors, he thought about how strange life was. 3 weeks ago, he had been a decoration, an invisible human in an alien palace. Now, he had saved a queen. Whatever happened next, nothing would be the same again. 1 month had passed since the night of the grand banquet. Park Tae stood in the throne room of the Valorian palace. Sunlight streamed through the crystal walls, painting everything in gold. Hundreds of Valorian nobles filled the room, standing in neat rows. Their eyes were fixed on the small human before them. The queen sat on her throne, looking down at Tae with an expression he could not quite read. She had called him here for a formal ceremony. She had not told him why. "Park Tae of Earth," she said. Her voice echoed through the silent room. "1 month ago, you saved my life. You saw a threat that my own people missed. You spoke when silence would have been safer. You risked everything to protect someone who was not even of your species." Tae said nothing. He stood straight and tried to control his breathing. "The Valorian Empire does not forget such acts," the queen continued. "We have debated for many days how to reward you. Some said we should give you wealth. Others said we should give you land. But I think you deserve something more." She stood up from her throne. For the first time, Tae saw her move toward him instead of away. She stopped just a few steps in front of him, close enough that he could see the deep wisdom in her ancient eyes. "I am creating a new position," she said. "Royal Observer. Your job will be to watch, as you have always watched, to see what others miss, to speak uncomfortable truths that no one else will say. You will answer only to me." Tae felt his heart stop. A position in the royal court. Real power. Real responsibility. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "I am honored. But I am just one human. I cannot be everywhere." "Then train others. Bring more of your people here. Teach them to see as you see." Then he made a request he knew was dangerous. "Your Majesty, if I accept this position, I ask for one thing in return," he said. Whispers ran through the crowd. A human making demands of the queen? Unthinkable. But the queen simply raised an eyebrow. "Speak. Let my people stand beside yours, not behind. We have been treated as lesser beings since we joined the galaxy. We are not lesser. We are different. Give humanity a chance to prove our worth." The queen studied him for a long moment. Then slowly, she smiled. "Very well, Park Tae. I will speak to the Galactic Council. Humanity will be elevated to full partnership status. Your people will have the same rights as any other species in the Empire." This time, the whispers were louder. Full partnership. No new species had received that honor in centuries. It would change everything for Earth. Tae bowed low. "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Thank me by doing your job well," she replied. "The galaxy is a dangerous place, and I have a feeling we will need your eyes more than ever." The ceremony ended. As the nobles filed out of the throne room, many of them stopped to look at Tae. Some looked at him with respect, some with curiosity, a few with jealousy or anger. But no one looked at him like he was nothing anymore. Sora found him later, standing on the same landing platform where they had talked so many times before. 2 suns were setting again, painting the sky in purple and gold. "Royal Observer," she said, standing beside him. "That is quite a title for someone who is supposed to be invisible." Tae smiled. "Invisible was never really my style." "No, I suppose it was not." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "They are already talking about it, you know. Across the galaxy, the human who saved the Valorian Queen, the human who saw what no one else could see. Other species are asking for human advisors. They want their own observers. That is good. It is more than good, Tay. It is everything. For years we have been trying to prove that humanity deserves a place in the galaxy. You did it in one night. Tay shook his head. I did not do anything special. I just watched. I just trusted my instincts. That is exactly what makes it special. The Valorians have perfect memory. The Sarkon have perfect logic. A dozen other species have abilities we can only dream of. But none of them could see what you saw. None of them felt what you felt. She turned to face him. Her eyes were bright with emotion. We came from a death world, she said. Everything on Earth wanted to kill us. We should have died 1,000 times. But we survived. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest. We survived because we learned to watch. We learned to feel danger before it arrived. We learned to read each other, to trust each other, to see the truth behind the lies. She gestured at the alien sky, at the crystal towers, at the ships moving between the stars. This is our gift, Tay. This is what we bring to the galaxy, not weapons or technology, just the simple ability to see what others cannot. Tay thought about her words as the suns continued to set. He thought about Earth, about his family, about all the humans who had lived and died so that he could stand here today. They had given him this gift without knowing it. Thousands of years of survival had shaped his mind, his instincts, his ability to watch and wait and see. The galaxy was vast and dangerous and full of wonders. Humanity was small and weak and new to the stars. But maybe that did not matter. Maybe strength was not always about size or power or technology. Maybe strength was about watching carefully, thinking clearly, speaking bravely when silence would be easier. Park Tay looked out at the alien stars. For the first time since leaving Earth, he felt like he truly belonged here. Come on, he said to Sora, we have work to do. Together they walked back into the palace. Behind them, the suns finished setting, and the stars came out to shine. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. Park Tay stood at the edge of the landing platform and watched the alien sky turn purple. 2 suns were setting behind the crystal towers of the Valorian capital city. He had been on this planet for 3 weeks now, and he still could not believe he was here. The Valorians were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had traveled between stars when humans were still living in caves. Their empire covered 7 star systems. Their technology was beyond anything Earth had ever seen, and they looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. Tay was 34 years old. He was not tall. He was not strong. He was not special in any way that the Valorians would understand. Back on Earth, he had worked as a cultural researcher. He studied how different groups of people behaved. He watched their small movements, their tiny expressions, the things they did without thinking. It was not an important job, but it was his job, and he was good at it. When Earth joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago, everything changed. Humans were the newest species to reach the stars. They were also the weakest. They lived short lives. They had no special abilities. The other species tolerated them, but barely. The Valorians had agreed to let a small human delegation stay at their royal palace. It was supposed to be an honor. Tay knew better. They were there to be displayed, like pets or decorations. Look at the primitive humans. See how they walk and talk. How amusing. He did not mind. Let them think he was nothing. Let them ignore him. That made his job easier. A voice called from behind him, Tay, the evening meal is ready. He turned and saw Lady Sora walking toward him. She was the only other human in the palace. She worked as a translator, turning human words into the musical language of the Valorians. She was young, maybe 28, with sharp eyes and a careful way of moving. I am not hungry, Tay said. You need to eat. You also need to stop standing out here alone. The Valorians think it is strange. Everything we do is strange to them. Sora smiled, but there was no happiness in it. True, but we must try to fit in. We are guests here, invisible guests if we are lucky. They walked together through the crystal corridors of the palace. The walls glowed with soft light. Valorian servants moved past them without looking. To them, the humans were not worth seeing. The palace was preparing for something big. Tay had noticed the signs for days now. More ships arriving, more servants rushing around, more guards at every door. He had asked Sora about it. The Grand Unification Banquet, she had explained. It happens once every 100 years. The Queen celebrates 500 years of Valorian rule. Delegates from 40 species will attend. 500 years. The Queen had been ruling since before any human alive was born. She was ancient, powerful, and cold. Tay had seen her only twice, from far away. She moved like water, smooth and dangerous. Her eyes saw everything. Or so the Valorians believed. Tay was not so sure. He had spent his life watching people. He knew that everyone missed things. Even the most powerful beings had blind spots. The Valorians were proud of their perfect memory. They could remember every moment of their long lives. They were proud of their sharp hearing. They could hear a whisper from across a room. They were proud of their ancient wisdom. But Tay had noticed something. They were so focused on facts and data that they missed the feelings underneath. They saw what people did, but not why they did it. They heard words, but not the fear or lies hiding behind them. Humans had spent thousands of years hunting and being hunted. They had learned to read faces, to sense danger, to feel when something was wrong. It was not magic. It was survival. Tonight, Tay sat in the small room he shared with Sora and ate his simple meal. Through the window, he could see the palace kitchens far below. Servants moved in and out, carrying food and supplies for the coming banquet. He watched them carefully. He had been watching them for days. One of the cooks was new. The old cook, a tall Valorian with blue skin, had been replaced 3 days ago. No one had explained why. The new cook was nervous. Tay could see it in the way he moved, quick and jerky. He could see it in the way the cook kept looking over his shoulder. Something was wrong. "You are staring again," Sora said. "The new cook. Do you know why they changed him?" Sora shrugged. "It is not important." "Maybe." She put down her food and looked at him. "Tay, I know that look. You think something is happening. I think something is wrong. I do not know what yet. Even if something is wrong, it is not our problem. We are here to watch and learn. We are here to make Earth look good. We are not here to cause trouble." Tay nodded slowly. She was right, of course. They were nothing here. 2 small humans in a palace of giants. If they caused problems, they would be sent home in shame, or worse. But he could not stop watching. He could not stop the feeling in his gut that told him danger was coming. It was the same feeling his ancestors had felt when predators stalked them in the darkness. It was the same feeling that had kept humanity alive for thousands of years. Something was very wrong in the Valorian palace, and Park Tay was going to find out what.